reclaim this ground, rebuild that man, and return to order. No surrender, no retreat, no excuses. This is OG Conversations. All right, OG Podcast. Revisiting our last part one of when your life collapses, when things collapse. Today is going to be the rebuild, how we're going to start over, how we're going to put back the pieces. We had talked about mentioning things content-wise about putting the pieces back together. So in this, you're going to hear a lot of things, but you miss some other stuff. So if you're out there, you're not subscribed to our channel, check it out. Look at the first episode that will lead you into this episode. There's a lot of episodes coming up. I mean, we're ultimately, the OG Podcast really just is going to be two men having conversations about men and men's topics. I think there's other people that can get out of it. So like it, subscribe to it, share it. We're ultimately on YouTube. We'll try to put ourselves on the other platforms. You can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, all those things like that. And just enjoy what we're conversing. If there's things that you want to hear, talk about, discuss, hear, say, or if you just want to flat out talk shit about us, make a comment. That's all. We'll take what you got. I mean, because we're men and we can handle it. That's how it goes. So
bring it on.
Let's pick up the pieces.
Bring it on.
Where do we start?
Let's see. Picking up the pieces. Yeah. So last episode, we talked about when your world collapses, when life falls apart. And I know that all of us, every man out there, every person out there listening, can identify with that in one way, shape, or another, because we've all failed, we've all blown it, we've all made mistakes. Some of us in catastrophic, monumental ways, others of us just in smaller, seemingly more insignificant ways. But the truth is, none of us are perfect, and we're all broken. And so there's not one of us listening right now that's better than the other person, even though we like to act like we are better than someone else, because at least I don't struggle with that, or, I would never go there. I would never say that like he does. We love to play the comparison game, don't we? Because the comparison game makes us feel better about ourselves. Comparison really comes from deep-rooted insecurities, and there's something about social media that just magnifies that.
Your Instagram self is not you.
That's true, yeah. And Instagram, yet what we do is, as we're scrolling, we're comparing our day with someone else's highlight reel. That isn't even real, because the perfect, family portrait, matching outfits, the smiles are all like from a ad you'd see for Crest toothpaste. All like, that's not reality, because 2 seconds before that picture was taken, Mom was screaming her head off, yelling at the kids. Dad was cussing. He's pissed off. He doesn't even want to be there. And yet, what do we do as we're scrolling? We compare our day with theirs, and we think it leads to greater depression, which that's why, as social media continues to have a greater grasp upon our life. I don't know if you've been following the trial that Google and Meta has been in. Been in the news the past week.
I saw that.
The more social media has a grasp on our life, the higher depression rates have gone up, and there's absolutely a correlation. One of the reasons for that correlation is we love to play the comparison game, okay? So maybe your world fell apart because of something you did, or maybe your world fell apart because of something someone did to you. But where we're going to start today is your world's falling apart. Why you are there doesn't really matter, because what matters most is that you need to pick up the pieces. You're there. And so now the question is, what do I do now? How do I pick up the pieces from here? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? Who do I lean on? Who can I count on now that my world has fallen apart? And so, I think the last episode we talked a little bit about, I shared about how my world blew up in 2020 and started to, scratch the surface on talking about what life has been like for me the past 5.5, 6 years, and how really this segment of life, this season, this chapter, however cheesy, corny, cliche way you want to say it, has been about picking up the pieces. And when you pick up the pieces, that is always going to first begin with taking responsibility, taking radical ownership of what I did wrong, where I screwed up, where I blew it, okay, and what I should have done differently. But what's so tempting for us as men is to point the finger when our world blows up and to say, well, if she had only done this, if he hadn't, done that. And so what happens when we point the finger and we blame, it's a deflection. It keeps us from doing the hard work that picking up the pieces requires, more specifically, taking responsibility, okay? Because there are some things, when your world has totally fallen apart, there are only some things that only you can take responsibility for. And so that's a lesson that I thought I knew in 2020, have continued to learn, and it's one of those things that I will never not be in a season or a time, and I've just accepted this. I will never not be at a time in my life where I'm not taking responsibility for something that I screwed up, but that's what's required to get better, And I think that at the end of the day, ultimately, man, that's what we want. That's why you're listening right now. It's because there's a little part of you that wants to improve, that wants to grow, that wants to get better. Whether the implications are, fill in the blank with your marriage, you want your marriage to get better, or you want to nail it even more at the workplace, at the office, in your career. You want to get better at, maybe it's some craft or some hobby. You want to get better as a dad, as a stepfather, as a grandfather, whatever the case may be. I think we should always be chasing something. We should always be pursuing something in our life, because as men, we are built to be builders and pursuers. God has just put this in our DNA. We see it all the way back in the book of Genesis, specifically chapters 1 and 2, when first creating the man. Before God gave us a wife, he gave us a job, because he told Adam, our very first father, he said, okay, you're here in the garden. The world is perfect. Now work it and take care of it. And so Adam had a job description before he had a bride. And so his job was to build and pursue. And that's in our DNA as men, to always be building or pursuing something. And so what does it look like for us to rebuild? Because what we did build totally fell apart. I think that's something that we can all identify with. So much of life is defined by adversity. Do you think, Tim, that you'll ever come to a point in your life where you aren't facing adversity in some way, shape, or form?
I think adversity is going to be nonstop. You don't have, whether it's something as simple as a financial struggle or a struggle with a child, struggle with a spouse, struggle with a job, struggle. I mean, there's so much struggling that can be done. Now, I've hit on, and I like to discuss, because of my upbringing, my Marine Corps, military past, whatever, is like, I have very much of a no quit mentality, I want to win. And I have had where in my downfall and my destruction, where I have walked out from my wife and kids multiple times. I'm in a car that's packed full of my stuff, and I'm like, I don't, what the hell is going to happen next? And it's like you fought and fought and fought and fought. You've had the conversations. You've screamed and yelled at your wife, or you've gone off on your kids. Which again, I'm relating to myself. Been there, done that. And you might have separated, or I left 8, 9 different freaking times over and over and over again. The first few years of marriage was garbage and it was trash, and you cussed and screamed and you did all these things. And there's dudes, I mean, you got holes in your walls, you got marks on your fingers. You've done maybe you've been put in handcuffs by cops because of things that you've done, because whatever, maybe you're drinking, maybe you're doing whatever. It's like, and I've been in that vulnerable spot to where it's like, if I don't do something different, I'm going to just flat out freaking shit down my leg. And this life is going to be miserable, because it's not going to get any better if you continue to treat your wife like an asshole, if you continue to treat your kids like shit, if you continue to do all these things that is just not going to get you into the winning category, because you can continue to make mistakes. I've walked out on my wife 9 different freaking times early in our marriage. And it's like, that's not going to get me anywhere. You're just being an idiot. And so you have to say at some point in time that I'm better than this. And it's a mentality that you have to state that I don't want this in my life. I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to be an alcoholic. I don't want to be a piece of shit. I don't want to be all these things that society labels you as. And then you in turn want to have all the pleasures in life, but not do the work to get it. Because I have seen that experience in myself and other people, in knowing you and knowing other people that I know that continue to want to just again have that. You can't treat your wife like crap day in and day out and expect to win. You can't go into work every day and think you're going to sit there and do nothing day in and day out and expect to get something out of it. You can't get a promotion. You can't do achieve the goals or achieve the life or anything that you want to do if
get
there's
better.
constant
We're talking about
excuses.
like just improving, growing, getting better as a man. And our last episode, I didn't mean to cut you off, by the way.
You're good.
Sorry, I just gave you a taste of your own medicine there. So feel free to shoot back.
No.
In our last episode, though, we talked a lot about identity and how we define identity here at OG Conversations. Is we say that identity is the truest thing about who you are. Okay, and what describes us doesn't define us. In other words, you may be an entrepreneur. That may describe you, but that isn't the truest thing about who you are. You may be a dad, but that description in itself is insufficient when it comes to defining who you are. And so just a second ago, you talked about how we've got to get better as men. Our world's counting on it, are counting on us to do that. One thing I've learned, especially the past 6 years, because my fall was so public, because I've just totally shredded any ounce of reputation that I had, is that now I've had to catch myself doing this a few different times. We live out who we think we are. Okay, we make choices based off how we define ourselves. Okay, so in other words, if you have man number one who believes he's a piece of shit, he's going to make choices throughout his day that reflect that. If he tells himself, if he thinks that he is no better than, the voices of shame that he hears in his mind all day long, that head trash, okay, he's going to make decisions and choices and react and respond out of who he believes that he is. And so it really begins with, as you said a second ago, mentality, but even deeper than that, it goes down to, or comes down to, how we see ourselves. It's an identity issue, and I've talked to many of our subscribers lately who, man, shit's hit the fan in their life. They're walking through some tough season, and why they're walking through a tough season isn't as important as, okay, what's next? How are we gonna get through this? But what's amazing to me is that, when we are facing adversity, our tendency is to kind of define ourselves based off the adversity we're experiencing. For example, back in 2009, I've been married for about 6 months. I was diagnosed with cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma. People came out of the woodwork, to tell me, whether they or someone in their family or one of their best friends, everybody in their life that had cancer, and their grandma died of the exact same cancer that I had. I mean, talk about encouraging, right? But there's a tendency, for what I realized, is that in the survivor community, to see themselves as merely nothing more than a survivor. You see it in their bio on Facebook or on Instagram, like cancer survivor. And it's like, really, you're so much more than that. When I was a part of AA, one of the things I didn't like about it, but I understand and respect it to a degree, is you go around, introduce yourself by saying, hey, my name is Patrick and I'm an alcoholic. Okay. Now, have I had times where I've had alcoholic tendencies? Yes. Have I behaved like an alcoholic before? Absolutely. Am I truly an alcoholic? Is that the truest thing about who I am as a man, as a person? No. And that is true for every person that goes to AA, is that we are so much more than that. And so our tendency is to define ourselves based off our struggle or form of adversity that we're going through. Rick Pitino, I am probably his biggest fan out there.
Legendary coach.
And our goal is to get Ricky P, the GOAT, on this podcast.
Definition of an OG.
Definition of an OG. I've not personally asked him yet, but I will be doing that after March Madness is over. And so fingers crossed. Anyways, I don't know if you saw, Vice Media did a documentary on St. John's, where he coaches right now. They did a documentary on kind of the rise, the rebuilding of St. John's, because when Rick Pitino got there, it was a program whose best days were in the past, not before it. Okay. And so they hired Rick Pitino to come in and revitalize, to rebuild the program and to revive it from the ashes. And that's exactly what he's done. I mean, they're headed to the Sweet 16, which is awesome. I don't know if you ever saw this clip of,
along with all the other programs that he's rebuilt by hand from scratch.
Exactly. I mean, it's just
the epitome of a rebuild, right?
Over 5 decades, which is just nuts to think about. He's been doing that since the 80s. I mean, you were like 50 years old back then.
I was an adult. I had 3 kids by then.
You were a grandfather back in.
But his mentality has always been a no quit. It's the mentality of being a winner and being that warrior context of mindset that I'm going to win at no cost. Whatever the cost is, I'm going to get to what I want to get to.
Whether don't give up.
I got fired from Louisville, or whether I got kicked out of the NBA, or whatever it might be, I'm not going to stop. There is nothing, and guys that have kids have a little bit more of this context, because you start to have a little bit of, this is your team, right? Your family is your team. It's your crew. And you start to have this mindset of, there is not a damn thing that's going to get in my way from achieving what I need to achieve for these little kids, for my son, for my daughter, for my multiple kids, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, you have to wake the hell up someday and say that this is what I'm going to do. And Rick, we'll put the video up. We'll add the video.
I know I just showed it to you, but check this video out, and then we'll talk about it.
And be a basketball player. Dig in. Every time you miss a shot, your game deflates. We don't care about your missed shots. Play defense. You guys keep blowing opportunity upon opportunity upon opportunity. You're like children with bad things happening. Instead of digging in and be tougher, you wilt. Where is your toughness? Where have you guys been raised that you're so weak mentally that you just give up when something doesn't go right for you? Don't you know what adversity is all about? That's the game of life, not the game of basketball. You don't get down when things go wrong. You dig in and get tougher. Your whole life's going to be adversity. Learn how to deal with it.
So Rick is literally like a general of,
Totally.
of a team, of a warrior-based team. This is a bunch of men that have to achieve a task.
Do you know how necessary that message is for my generation and younger generations to hear?
100%. 100%. 100%.
You know,
and
like
it's
our
like
grandparents stormed the beaches of Normandy, and
we have World War II,
this generation's
Vietnam guys
afraid to, post a picture on Facebook. That's what fear looks like for them.
Yeah.
Really?
There's not a day that I won't. Yeah, exactly. There's not a day that I don't see those old dudes in a store or someplace. You ask my wife and my kids, I'll walk to every single one of those dudes and say how much I appreciate and thank them
Yeah,
for what they've done.
I do it too.
Because that shit is legit, no matter what it is. And now it's like, so you had a little confrontation in school, or you had a confrontation with somebody on social media, and now your feelings are hurt. Like, ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you have to do what you have to do to win. And that's what he's talking about.
Right.
It's like, I don't give two flying shits what's going on in your life. It does not matter. I've been arrested for domestic violence. I sat in a room in a domestic violence class, and the dude says, "Hey, you don't listen very well, do you? You're not going to make it in life." I'm like, "Try me, mother. Let's see where I get to." And that second, that very, very second, there's a light bulb that goes on. It's like, I'm going to grow the fuck up, and I'm going to do what I got to do to win at whatever character that I say that I am, that this is who I'm supposed to be, like what you were saying. It's like, I don't care what any of you say. I don't care what he says. I don't care what my parents say. I don't care what her parents say. I'm going to be the character and the person that I am. I am who I am, and I am who he says, aka God says, that I am. And all the rest of the noise doesn't mean squat, because you're going to win based off of who you are and what you decide to be, and not what somebody else says.
I love what he said. Where have you been raised that you're so weak mentally? And so what you hear Coach P saying begins with mentality, right? So tell me I can't do something, and I'm going to show you
I'm
that
going
I
to show
can.
you different.
And it channels this killer instinct in me of tell me I can't, or I will never, and I will show you exactly, I will prove you wrong. One thing that I sometimes tell myself is I want to be impossible to kill or quit. And man, what would it look like if every man had that as a mentality, as a mindset, be impossible to quit? And you've really got to have that mindset when it comes to picking up the pieces in this rebuilding phase once your life totally implodes, is you can't quit. The second you quit is the second you claim defeat. And the thing is, as men, we want to be strong, and we often equate strength with success and failure. Okay, so the more successes we have, the stronger we are. The more times we failed, the weaker we are. But strength is not measured in terms of failure as much as it's measured in terms of getting back up after we've failed.
Ultimately, there's a kill or be killed. And that is just an idea of stating that looks many different ways. Not obviously in a war, it's, okay, I'm going to shoot you before you shoot me. That's what a war context is. But it's this, you have to get out there and get ahead of what's happening, because otherwise it's going to defeat you and you're going to be the one that gets killed. And that's a miserable, miserable stake. And that's what you talk about, the weakness of where you are and the vulnerability of the life that you're living, because you're collapsed, you're in pieces, you're in shambles. You can either be weak and be killed and be destructed and be stomped out, or you can be the killer and you can come back from adversity, and you can overcome the things that you're doing, and you can look at the dude that says, hey, buddy, you don't listen very well, you're not going to make it in life. I'm like, please try me. Because the fact that you just said, and so then and of course the leaders in the world, the Coach K's and the Patinos and the guys that I've seen that are gunnery sergeants and captains and colonels in the military, the ones that are doing great at getting their people to fall in line, to follow them, to win those championships, to win those battles or whatever it might be. The ones that are leading that are the ones that have that killer instinct.
They don't know how to quit.
They don't quit. It's not. I'm not going to. Whether I'm
It
running,
is not in their DNA.
like what I said. Whether I'm trying to run a mile and lose weight or whatever it might be, or if it's like I'm trying to start a business because I'm tired of working for the HVAC company that I was working for that keeps screwing me over, and I keep bad mouthing them about how this place sucks and their policy sucks. It's like, okay, buy a van and start your own freaking HVAC company. It's that simple, because you at the end of the day are responsible for you.
Yeah.
And so the more that you complain, you're getting nowhere. You're just being killed. You complain, you complain, you complain. You got excuse after excuse after excuse. You're just killing yourself.
Yeah.
You have to flip the script and say, no, 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 no. I'm going to be the one that is doing the killing, and not society that's killing me. And that's ultimately what you've talked about, what I've talked about, stating that people will come at you because, oh, I cheated on my wife and I've done whatever, or I've, I lost my kids, or I lost my job, or whatever. So I got to be the. I've had shitty jobs. I mean, I was roofing one time, and in the worst part of my life, I had god awful jobs
with all my people,
delivery stuff, delivery stuff or whatever. And it's like it was miserable. And it's like, I'm telling these people, I'm not doing this and I'm not doing this. Complain and complain and complain, right? And it gets me nowhere. It's like beating your head up against the wall.
Yeah.
But when
and nobody cares.
When you want to win, and if you're killing and you're trying to achieve those things and you want to win, that's ultimately what's going to get you someplace that you want to be at, because this is what I want to be at, and nothing is going to stop me from getting to that point.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you say or what I say. I'm going to do what I got to do to get where I got to be, whether that's good, bad, or otherwise. But you can't put pieces together. You cannot build anything. I cannot open a Lego set for my kid on Christmas without having the blueprint and the mentality that, hey, we're about to get this done. My wife and I can't start a business or start a project and say that, oh, I think we're going to make our bathroom look nicer. Or I think we're going to start a coffee business or whatever, and then they just go, okay, where do we start? There has to be a blueprint. There has to be a mentality. There has to be a thought process of nothing out there is going to stop us from getting this done. Mm-hmm. We redid our bathroom in the most god-awful, miserable time of the year for us, with our businesses at peak season. Like, we're doing all the business. Everything is haywire. We've got a son that's got medical issues going on. Everything is just, horrible time frame. We had to redo our bathroom, and we did it because we keep at it. And we do what we got to do and we make it work. I don't give a shit if that means staying up till late at night. I don't matter if it says you got to get up early in the morning. It doesn't make any difference. When I left at my final draw and I was ready to end my marriage and end my family and everything else, it was this weird context of, I hate reading. Can't read. Don't want to read. Don't care to read. If it's something other than a highlight of a basketball game, I don't want to read it because it's too long. If you send me a text message that's one of them long, drawn-out text messages, I'll read the first sentences and I'm out.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason...
Give me the Cliff Notes version of that cheesy little quote that it should be found on the, Focus on the Family website.
Hey, where's the TikTok video? It's only 10 seconds long, right? And so... But for whatever reason, when I was at the horriblest moment, I picked up a book out of just weird, I don't know what made me do it. I don't know. I picked up this book and started reading this book. Interesting thing was I'm at a bad situation in my relationship with my wife and my family. This book is called Your Wife Is Not Your Mama. Mm-hmm. It's a book by a guy out of Atlanta named Wellington Boone. This book literally transformed my brain. It's like when I was reading through this book, I went from being a child to an adult, because the things that were being said in there like blew my mind. I had come out of the Marine Corps, I had that Marine Corps mentality, like, oh, I'm Billy Badass and I'm all this stuff, this and that, just like you would any other military type guy kind of has. And I was almost transformed as I'm reading line for line of what this guy's saying. I mean, this is one of the, again, going to OG, this guy's an OG from OG. He's a big time pastor out of Atlanta. You can look Wellington Boone up on Google, search him or whatever. He's amazing. And I'm reading this thing like, oh, I'm not in high school anymore. I'm not a child. I'm not my wife's not just some little girl that I have a girlfriend, that I had this fling with, that she's going to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it. That's not how that works. And so I had to then retransform my brain in what was being said, what I was hearing, and then now, okay, I want to hear more of that, or I want to follow more of that blueprint. This is the blueprint. Like, this man is telling me how to be a man and how to treat my wife the way that she should be treated. And that's the blueprint that I want to follow. I have to tell myself, again, my mentality starts with, that's the blueprint. Okay, I'm going to rebuild my house, or I'm going to rebuild my life, or I'm going to rebuild a Lego, or I'm going to rebuild anything. I have to have the blueprint that's going to show me how to do that.
Yeah. And you got to be committed to it, because here's what we do as people. And you could probably make this argument in terms of, whether you're renovating your bathroom like you guys did, whether it's a job, marriage. We all hit that point. We all hit a wall at some point in the project, at some point in the relationship, at some point in the job, where it's painful, it's an inconvenience, it's a nuisance, it's annoying. Okay, we all hit the wall. Okay, so when you hit the wall, where do you go? What do you do? How do you respond? And the problem is, sorry, I got Zen in. The problem is that as people, we have trained ourselves to develop this allergy to pain. Okay? We avoid pain. We engineer our life. We are obsessed with engineering our life in such a way to reorient everything so that we experience as less amount of pain as possible, And so, you talk about that book. There's a book by Sam Chan called Leadership Pain. And the whole premise of his book is your effectiveness as a person will never supersede your threshold and tolerance for pain. And so pain is really an opportunity to not just grow, but to develop resilience. And I have experienced so much, and I don't say this for sympathy, but just from a place of like,
Facts.
I kind of know what I'm talking about here, that, yeah, I've experienced a level and depth of pain the past 6 years that I did not know was possible. I thought I knew what pain was before. Okay, then you lose your family, and then you lose your entire world that you built, and it's a whole nother level of pain. And so when you go through pain, you can see yourself as the victim, or you can see yourself as, okay, this is an opportunity to claim victory. So victim or victor, which one are you going to be? It's why Jesus in the book of John goes up to the guy who's been paralyzed for 38 years. And the very first question he asked, which is really interesting, it seems like, well, of course, Jesus, duh, yes. The answer is yes. He goes up to the dude, been laying there 38 years, John says. He said, hey, do you want to get well? In other words, do you want to walk again? You would think, well, he's of course going to. Why would you even ask that question? And yet, the reason why Jesus asks that is because he knows human nature. And when we go through pain, and when we experience just the shit of life, our tendency is to then define ourselves based off the struggle that we're enduring, based off the suffering that we're experiencing. If it's cancer, if it's alcoholism, or maybe it's some kind of handicap, our tendency is to then say, oh, I am a cancer survivor. If I were to ask, who are you? I'm an alcoholic, or I am, fill in the blank with whatever your struggle is. And so Jesus says, do you want to get well? Because it's going to require surrendering how he saw himself. Because again, it begins with, how do you see yourself? How do you view yourself? How do you define yourself? Do you see yourself as that victim, or do you want to be a victor?
You want to win.
And that requires resilience, because my effectiveness as a man will never, ever supersede my willingness to keep going when I want to give up. I want my kids. So this is something that I've just kind of written in my phone. It's a backdrop on my phone. And it goes like this, that I want my kids to grow up and to be able to say, I don't have a perfect dad, but I do have a dad that doesn't know how to give up, walk away, and tap out. The life got hard, but he didn't know how to quit.
You can rise above the pain. And you watch things from movies or MMA fights. You know, you've seen these things over the years. Everybody has. You all have watched them, whether it's a real video or anything that shows somebody that's down and defeated. They've been shot or they've been beat up and they're all bloody or whatever. So you see this pain that you endure, okay? I have a 15-year-old son. My youngest son is 15. And at the age of 10, he had a stroke. Since then, I'll make a whole long story short, has had multiple strokes. He's been paralyzed.
One of the coolest kids that I know.
One of the coolest kids on the planet. Has had multiple strokes. He then started having multiple seizures on top of it. We have put him on life flight twice. Mm-hmm. There's been multiple times. The one life flight, we weren't sure that we were going to find him in the hospital when we got there, even alive. And this kid still to this day walks around like he is a 15-year-old boy. He loves life. He loves people. He loves his dogs. He loves everything. And it is an absolute... That right there in itself, even as a parent or somebody that knows his story, shout out, it's Pray for Brady on Facebook, is so endearing to me to say, like, this kid, like, if you've seen the pain he's gone through, laying, like, completely paralyzed, can't speak, the type of surgeries he's had a craniotomy done where they went into his brain. His brain filled with blood afterwards. He had a time frame where he looked like he was beat up by Mike Tyson. It was ugly.
I remember
it was evil. Yeah. I mean, it was like, you never want to see your kid go through that.
Right.
And he stands here today. You want to subscribe now, because I'm going to think about, I think me and Patrick may even put Brady on the show someday. This kid's legit. I mean, I call him Wolverine. You know, Wolverine has that healing. When Wolverine, the X-Men, gets stabbed and he gets cut and he gets beat up or shot, he internally heals himself. That's literally my son. And I'm like, he's got to be...
The thing about Brady is, dude, he's got so much joy. There's a contagious happiness about him, because he knows that joy is not found in my circumstances. And he knows who he is. And let me just say, you didn't mention this for me to make note of this, but a 10-year-old doesn't possess that type of joy by accident. That is the result of being raised well. That's the result of having a mom and dad that for 10, 15 years of his life has displayed, maybe not perfectly, but has demonstrated unconditional love, not just with each other or to each other, but to him as well, and has shown him the ways of the Lord, as the book of Proverbs says, to train our children up so that they would grow up and never depart from it. And man, so that is really, you wouldn't maybe see it this way, but that's really a tribute to who you are as a dad. And man, it'd be cool to have Brady on the show. That would be awesome.
Yeah, the pain is a short term aspect of suffering a little bit, and we suffered through. So I tell you about, like, rebuilding. So I'm at a little bit different context, because I've been married for going on 27 years, and it is purely by the grace of God and the angelic wife that I have that we are at that point. Because as I've told you before, it was in and out, this god-awful few first years of marriage that was just evil. And today we're talking about rebuilding and us doing projects together. My wife and I have started multiple businesses. We have done projects in our home where we've done complete redos of bathrooms and areas of our house and this, that, and everything else, and projects because we won't give up. We haven't quit. And what's funny is you had said something about people getting you to those certain aspects and like that, and different things that you got to get through when you're rebuilding. And you know what's crazy is I cannot stand. There's one thing in this world that I absolutely drives at my nerves is when something is supposed to do something and it doesn't do that. Like if I'm building something and the drill doesn't operate the way it's supposed to operate, I'm like, why in God's name is this freaking drill not doing what it's supposed to do? Or why is this car not operating? Like computer technology, like don't even get me started on that. Like I'm supposed to be able to push this link and it's supposed to do what it's supposed to do and it doesn't. And you said something about getting you through that pain. That pains me to deal with those things. When I drive a car, oh my God, it's like it's like people don't do what they're supposed to do. That drives at my nerves when things don't go the way that they're supposed to go.
No wonder why the cops have been called on you so many times.
At least a dozen or more. And so the nice part about that is as a firefighter or Marine, you just build relationships with these guys. So then you're just like, hey, buddy, nice to see you too. And so,
Tim again.
You know what's crazy is when something doesn't go right in my life like that, you know who's there to calm that nerve? The same person that I used to fight with on a day in and day out basis and almost walked out on. I'm doing something in a project and you can ask her in whatever.
She's the Tim whisperer.
I'm sitting there and I'm mad as God's creation. I just tried to drill a screw through the wall and I didn't pay attention and I grabbed the thing and it burned the crap out of my fingers, right? And I'm angry and it's like, here comes,
she's the whisperer.
Miss Wife, and she goes like an angel or something. And
is that what you call her, Miss Wife, or is her name Sarah?
It's going to be okay. It'll be all right. It's not the end of the world. We drive to Florida, to and from Florida all the time. And I mean, you know how anybody that knows goes to Atlanta, those type of places like that. It's like, oh, dude, I'm ready to. I've had a guy that clipped my mirror one time, and I wanted to pull up next to him.
Sure, you didn't deserve it.
I wanted to pull up next to him with a gun, and I mean, it was getting like heated. It's like she's like, honey, now just it's okay. It's not the end. Just let him go. And I'm like, I can't let him go. I'd like to blow his tire up with this 9mm if it's okay with you. So I say that all in a very sarcastic context. But if you think about the idea of what I just said in the beginning, there was our marriage and it was horrible and it was miserable and I almost ruined the entire thing and walked out forever. 20 some years later, we do business together. We do projects together. We've raised 8 kids together. How does that happen? How is that even possible or fathomable in the fact that you talk about building from rubbish?
Here's the thing, like you never would, you can look back and realize like, dude, you've built an incredible life from nothing to something. Okay. And there are all sorts of metrics that we could talk about that speaks to the life that you've built. But you know what? You wouldn't have what you have now if at some point you had tapped out and you had quit and you had given up, if you allowed failure to define you. And the thing is, everybody loves the idea of growth, but very few people are willing to actually submit themselves to the process that growth requires. Sam Chan in the book Leadership Pain, he talks about growth equals change. Okay. Change equals loss. Loss equals pain. Therefore, growth equals pain. Okay? And
it's hard.
You will never grow beyond your capacity for pain. That's just true. And so what I have been learning is to see pain as an opportunity to develop resiliency within me. I've got a lot of flaws. I've made a lot of mistakes in my past. Okay.
Join the club.
But a strength of mine that I think I learned from my parents and my older siblings and different mentors that I've had in life is this tenacious resiliency. I literally don't know how to give up. And it doesn't work too well in your dating life when you get ghosted and
That's one
then
thing.
it's, not just rejection, but you've lost it. It's like, no, I'm going to have the final say.
That is one thing that I do not endure.
Oh man, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Strength is measured in terms of not how many times you've failed, but how many times you've gotten back up after you've failed.
There's a lot of people that would see, in the correlation between the two of us going back and forth is I've been you. I'm at a different phase in that process of rebuilding, right? So the nice part about it is these aren't just two dudes that are sitting here giving you some lame ass freaking counseling response to what's going on. We're two dudes that endured things that got to different points of where we are currently in our lives.
Been forged.
We've been in pieces, and so the sword's not just going to be sharpened overnight. Or the handle put on it, or any of those type of things like that, and your blade is maybe freshly being banged into place, where mine now has all the different shininess to it, and the handle, and all these different things, because there are so many people in my life, in our life, in my family's life, that think that these people are entrepreneurs, and he's a first responder, and we respect them, and we've even called, because we've got 8 kids, and people are like, oh, you guys must be angelic or angels. It's like, no, I think we're freaking crazy, but that's besides the point. Because you don't know, if I told you the story that led up to today, you would be like, how in God's name did you endure that? Because it was painful and it was difficult, because you don't just show up today and now I'm in the Final Four. That's not how that worked. Go back and watch the documentary or watch the behind the scenes of the St. John's team, or whoever we're talking about, and realize these guys were like laying on the gym floor because they worked so hard, practicing and going over things, and whatever that looks like for you.
It's not sexy. It's
ugly,
and it's not something you post about. Even though I am so exhausted by the amount of gym selfies, video. I don't care about you working out. Okay, just work out. And let the product of you working out brag about that. But I don't care how many squats you can do, especially if you're a girl. Not a turn on. But we don't like to. It's like St. John's is playing in the Sweet 16. We love to celebrate. They're getting a lot of attention right now. But that is the product, the result of knowing how Patino works and how he runs his program. 5 a.m. wake-ups.
Blood, sweat, and tears from those young men.
Exactly. When, Instagram, they didn't post to their story. It's the things, it's not the sexy, glamorous moments that you want to brag about. That's what leads to those kind of moments. That's what leads to the Sweet 16. And so you're exactly right. Hearing about you are a very successful entrepreneur, and I admire that about you. A buddy of mine, he's a mentor. Right before I started a company a couple years ago, he was walking me through. He goes, it requires, he's like, I think you're cut out for it. And I was like, what do you mean cut out? Like, help me understand that a little bit more. He goes, well, every entrepreneur needs really 4 things: the heart to run a company, smarts, the intelligence it requires, the gut, in other words, the ability to make tough decisions, to grind it out even when you want to give up. Okay, so gut, and then it requires a little bit of luck. Heart, smarts, gut, luck. When it comes to my experience has been, again, we all love the idea of success. We all love the idea of growth. Very few of us are willing day to day, moment by moment, put in the work that requires, that growth and success demands of us, the sacrifice that's involved. All of us want to grow. Very few of us are willing to sacrifice, though. We all want success, but we want success apart from sacrifice, and you just can't have it that way. I remember back when I was senior pastor at Crossroads in the Hills here in Evansville, whenever we would be hiring someone on my team, and in the interview process, I remember going to our HR director and say, hey, this question, make sure you ask this question when you do initial interviews because it's really important to me. And she kind of like took a step back and was like, well, why is that question important? I'll tell you why. The question is, or was, when was the last time you failed at something? And if their answer was, well, I don't know. A, I know they're lying, but B, what that told me was they play it too safe in life. And they do not have the capacity to endure pain. And they're going to be quick to tap out. And they aren't willing to take a risk. Okay, show me somebody who fails time and time again. I'll show you somebody who is willing to take risks. Every successful person out there, okay, at some point has developed the gut and the stomach to take risks, to live with the pain, the burden, the responsibility that the road to success and growth requires and takes. So rebuilding, piecing together your life after it's totally imploded, man, so we've talked about
hard.
It's a mentality shift, understanding your identity, okay, being committed to the process, not playing the comparison game. That's critical. That's important. But don't you think it's also about, and these things aren't necessarily in order of importance, but you've also got to develop a vision for your life.
A vision, and I was talking about like the having, when you start to put the pieces together, using that as in the context as like building a Lego with your kid. It's like you don't just open that thing and all these pieces are all over the table and goes like,
right,
make that ship or make that car or make that whatever it is. You have to have the blueprint. You have to have that goal or the vision or the
box to know
of what you're going to do. And I can tell you for a fact there is this opportunity. Okay, so I'm in pieces. My life sucks. All right, so I am going to do one of two things. My pain, I'm going to look for something that's going to reduce my pain. That might be, I'm going to start taking pain pills or smoking weed or doing drugs or whatever it might be, or I'm going to start hitting the bottle or drinking or going out to bars and doing whatever I got to do to make myself lessen my pain. I'm going to tell you what, even today, in 2026, there's even this weird option that my pain is so miserable because of, let's just say, my relationships, that I'm so miserable and I'm so in so much pain because of those relationships that I'm going to flip to somehow go to the other side of the fence, if you understand what I'm saying. That's what people do nowadays. Like, it's going to change.
Explain what you mean by that.
If I had miserable relationships, these sucks. These girls are freaking crazy. I'm not doing with this. Oh, let's go over here and let's try to the other side of the fence and see if the grass is greener over there with maybe a guy. It's not going to work.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It doesn't make a damn lick of difference. It's not going to change any damn thing because it's you. It has nothing to do with her.
There's this unwillingness to be brutally honest, to take accountability, and to take ownership and responsibility for who we are.
You're looking to replace your pain with something that, quote unquote, makes you feel better. Drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever it might be. You're going to medicate it with something.
Right.
And that can't be the case, because that gets you nowhere but further in the rabbit hole, in a darker hole. And these are people like, I mean, we've seen this happen. It's a fact that people the problem is people don't talk about it. People don't want to have that conversation and tell you that you're wrong because of what you're doing. You're just masking your pain.
That's all that it is. And I remember somebody, when I was struggling with drinking a couple of years ago, drinking too much, somebody said, there's no such thing as an addict. There's just people that have suffered.
They're just suffering.
And so show me an addict. I'll show you somebody who's gone through a lot of shit in their life.
Right.
And they're just trying to cope. They're just trying to make it through the day. And it's a quick fix. So they shoot up, they smoke, they drink, whatever the case may be, whatever their form of, outlet is. It's an escape, though, from reality. You only escape from realities that are really nightmares.
Right.
Right.
And they don't have that escape. They don't. So going back to what we were talking about, they don't have any type of vision.
Yeah.
They don't have a plan. They don't have an idea. It's just that in the moment, like, oh, this is what makes me feel better because I don't have to deal with that that pain of that, whatever is a loss or whatever it might be. I don't have to deal with that pain. So you have to stop, whether you're a guy getting out of prison, a guy that's getting out of a horrible marriage, a guy that's coming out from a loss of life, someone that's coming out of a horrible job, or whatever that pain may be. You have to have a vision and an idea of what life is going to look like appropriately in front of you. I like to win, period. Whether it's playing freaking Uno or whether it's starting a business, I want to win. And if you're going to stand in my way, and if you're going to prevent me from winning, then there's going to be friction there. And so, but my goal is to reach the finish line. I'm going to reach the finish line. And 9 times out of 10, my goal is to reach that finish line before everybody else does. Because that's the drive that's in me to push forward with this is my achievable goal. I love my wife. She's an absolutely beautiful human being that I love to death. And I want to achieve everything that's right in that relationship. No matter what I did 25, 26, 27 years ago, how that looked, where it got us to, how we got back together, or what those even details are. That means jack shit today. Today is I want to achieve things. We run businesses. We have rebuilt houses. We have done all these things together because that's what I chose to do. And that's the goal that I had, was to reach a family and a wife and kid, all these things that were successes of like we've said, what you see on Instagram. I post stuff on Instagram all the time. I'm on vacation. Here's a pre-picture of my bathroom when it was all tore apart. Here's what it looks all pretty and glorious now. But what was in between those two things, from the house, the bathroom looking like crap torn apart, to the bathroom looking pretty and gorgeous and wonderful now, or my marriage 25 years ago as opposed to my marriage today, there was a goal there. I had to achieve something. I had to get to that.
You've got to be driven. You've got to. And I remember when at Crossroads first taking over as part of the succession plan, somebody coming up and saying, "Okay, what's your 5-year vision for the church? Because you're the primary vision caster." And it's like, okay, let's go back to and define what vision is. Vision is simply a picture of the preferred future. What is that for your life? What does your preferred future look like? Describe it. Be detailed about it. Maybe that's what you need to do as you're listening to this right now. I was talking with one of our listeners recently, and ironically, is a girl, and she doesn't have a job. She kind of lives from house to house, couch to couch that her friends let her live on. She has asked me more times than I can count for money so she can DoorDash or do Uber Eats to eat for the day. And I eventually was like, hey, what's your plan to get out of this? She didn't have one. And you're just going to continue to spin your tires if you don't have a plan in your life. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about in our next episode. Okay. And that is returning to, in other words, this life
normalcy
that we were that we were made to live.
Right.
And so today's been about rebuilding. You can't return unless you first rebuild.
Right.
And
how did we go from the destructive bathroom to the recreated bathroom? How did we go from you have left your wife, you have yelled and screamed at your wife, you've been arrested, you've done all these things like that, to how that then do you get to the point that life is
returning,
good?
Yeah, you've returning back kids to how you were meant to live.
Yeah, you've had all these successes in life that you've gotten to this certain point. What's that going to look like and how you're going to get there? It's the blueprint and the idea and the plan to get there. Because how many people can you talk to any day of the week, especially people that are probably about the 20 to 30 year old range, and say what you just said about the church context. What is your 5-year plan? They're like, oh, I don't know. I was just trying to go out tonight. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm about to hop on Call of Duty or whatever and play video games with my dudes. It's like that's your life. That's your life, really. So the best thing that you can do, you talking to a girl, any girls out there, women, females, the best thing you can do is give OG Podcast to your husband for Father's Day. That'd be a good idea right there.
Absolutely.
Click and subscribe. Get them involved because this shit's going to hit the fan.
All right. Well, next week we're going to be talking about returning. Looking forward to it.
Returning. You know what I tell you at the end of each podcast? I love you, brother.
Love you too, buddy. Appreciate it. Got your 6.